I want to welcome Anjani to the podcast today. We're going to be talking about herbalism and possibly yoga. And then I want to talk to you about planetary alignments and astrology. Like I see you're involved in so many different aspects of this. And so it's really interesting to me. I have one of your tinctures that you make, which is the what is it in wake awaken the dream, which this it tastes so good. It's very like earthy, like it makes you feel like you're connected to the earth, just like taking it. It's really interesting. But I thought it'd be good for you to kind of give a little bit of your background and what you do for the people listening.
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, so much for inviting me. That is such an honor. And I love what you're doing with dreams because to me, the dream realm is like our first level of who and what we are. And
Yeah.
I feel like the dreams are like the undercurrent of everything in our waking reality. So I'm super fascinated with it. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here and talking to you. I'm probably going to ask you some questions along the way too. Yeah, so I used to be in the military. Um, I got out of the military and I was having like a lot of health problems, like anxiety, depression. I had a lot of pain in my body, like I was in a wheelchair for a moment. I was getting
Wow.
all sorts of like treatments and stuff like that from the Western medical model because I worked in a hospital in the Navy and nothing was working. And actually, everything that I received in the form of healthcare made my condition worse.
Huh.
And so that's when I found massage. One of my chiefs had a wife who was a massage therapist. I had my first massage when I was probably 26 years old. And I went home and was like, "That's what I wanna do when I grow up." Was and she was
Yeah.
into yoga, she was an esthetician, so and I bought a package right away, which is I, like, dropped $1,000, like, it's like I went to get one massage, I dropped a big amount of money, and I felt instantly like, "I want her to train me," and I asked her to, like, start mentoring me.
Oh,
So she was, like, teaching me a little meditation, a little yoga, and it was like the first time I felt really in my body and was able to relax, which was like not happening when I was in the military. I was so
yeah.
so I got out of the military. I did a year massage training, and then like 2 days after graduation, I left the country and went to Thailand, studied Thai massage. I went to India, and then I ended up living in India for 2 years, studying Reiki, yoga, Ayurveda, and that pretty much is like a life-changing experience and that I
Yeah.
just never came back into, like I mean, I never came back to, like, Western modern
Yeah.
humanity, I just
Yeah.
stayed with, like, this different, um almost like a cultural reset to my brain, which is like, oh, in India, you wake up when the sun comes up, you eat what's in season, you go to sleep when the sun goes down. And that really, within probably a month of being there, completely reset my nervous system. And I didn't feel the anxiety and the depression and even pain in my body went away just by
Wow.
just by
Yeah.
eating normal food and sleeping on time pretty much.
Wow. Oh my God. I absolutely love that. And I can relate to it on a certain level because once I started really focusing on the dream work, I was always interested in it. It was only like in the last 5 years where I really like honed in on really paying attention to what the messages were more than just like for entertainment value for myself. It was like really digging deep. And it does. It once you change, you really can't go back. But I mean, like living here, like I can be like safe in my zone and journaling and stuff, then you get out into the regular world. So how do you like take what you know and apply it to being like in California and everything is so busy and people from other states wouldn't even understand or from around the world. We're at a very fast pace and we're always awake. And like, so how do you find balance living here, from what you learned there?
What a what a phenomenal question, because the first year when I got back to California, I got here, I was still wearing my little bindi, and I was used to waking up like around 4 a.m., doing my cleansing. There's this whole cleansing routine in
Yeah.
India. The hygiene is like they say, cleanliness is godliness. That
Yeah.
is like you do that for like the first hour of your morning.
Well,
And so there's all this whole stuff. When I got here, I was like, "Oh, wow. I'm seeing all these fake boobs and Botox and, like, UGG boots and Lululemon clothes," and I was still just I literally had only 1 suitcase when I got back from India, and I felt just overwhelmed with, like, consumerism, and my kids were still speaking broken English and, like, bobbling their heads when they talked and everything. And so that was the biggest thing, and I remember my yoga teacher in India saying that when you get back, you have to keep these particular things of the practice, which is your cleansing, your pranayama, the breathing exercises, and sun salutations. Bare minimum that you have to keep doing that. And also that it's not for the modern lifestyle, because in the modern lifestyle, we have to. Now, I'm saying it like this because since I got back in 2009 from India, and since I my theory has changed, but at the time it was like you have to get back into the rat race in a way. You have to pay your rent, you need to feed the kids. It's high paced. And I remember having a conversation with a friend, and I was like, I feel like I need the anxiety in order to function
yeah,
in this city life.
yeah,
And now I don't feel like that anymore, because now I'm like, no, that's a lie. Like that whole city lifestyle is a lie. And so what I've been doing now is like finding a way to be calm and centered and grounded and as connected to the earth as possible while living here. And it's challenging because it doesn't match. Like
yeah,
my feeling and my body doesn't match what I'm experiencing and witnessing. So it
yeah.
does feel like being a stranger in a strange land.
I can totally relate because when I just all this for me is very recent that I've started doing it. I've always been one of these people that, ate the cookie, drank the wine. And not to say I still don't drink wine or eat cookies, but like I'm more mindful of what I do and how I take care of myself. And I can now find that how to center myself and be peaceful. And I'll still have emotions and stuff, but I know that I can honor them and like work with them and stuff. But I can go out and you can like put that vibe out, but some people just won't receive it from you, even though you're not like you just be in the grocery store and there's just all around you, there's all this like chaos, and it's very like, even though you can try to stay centered, it does like it affects you whether you like it or not. It just does. You just can't, get away from it. I would love to go to India and just spend a year just pulling in all that peacefulness. So is that something that you teach other people, is how to kind of have that kind of practice in their own lives?
Oh man. Thank you for asking that, because I should be. I think so. I should be, but I'm currently not teaching anything like that. I had this thing, I call it 0 to 20. It's like level 0 to level 20. And wherever we're at on this spectrum, 0 being like you really still believe that what you see on TV, and you believe that you need the consumerism mindset, and you just eat what the commercial says to eat, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's like ground 0. And then level 20 would be like that you recognize the whole path from 0 to 20. 20 is like you see it and you're watching it like, oh, that's harmful. Like this message that we're getting zoomed in through the Wi-Fi into our body is a harmful message. The frequencies of music, what they're showing us in the movies, what they're telling us in the commercials is actually harmful. And the path between 0 and 20 is like a treacherous path.
Yeah.
There's a moment halfway through where you're like, I think when people call it like a spiritual awakening, where you're like freaking out and like kind of getting mad that you believed the
Yeah.
lie. And then also like feel so passionate about, like, when they say waking people up. And then those people who are like, they have to tell, oh, chemtrails, and like, oh, and they feel like really need to like somehow save people. Like there's
Yeah.
a that's a point. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, then you kind of move into like sense of being calm about it in a strange way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, teaching people, I think I have gone through on my YouTube channel, making series of videos that will help with, I call it digesting emotions. There's a lot of Tantra yoga teachings that I share on my YouTube channel about like when you're having an emotional response to a situation, how to pause in the emotion and like feel the emotion, let it pass through you, not to like shoot it out at people and, you know? So, yeah, I guess I have done some of that, and I taught yoga to kids a long time, probably about
Oh.
5 years.
Mhm.
Um, I taught yoga at a church for a while to the administrators of the church.
Wow.
I've taught yoga to a lot of people, and in teaching the physical yoga part, I think there is, some of that awareness of other things that can get kind of woven into the class.
Yeah. Wow. Now, what about like the herbalism and the diet? Like, I was thinking, I just bought a book recently. It was at the Five and Below store, and I was
Okay.
like, "That's so funny that I saw this, and I was going to interview you." But so, like, I'm looking at this book. It has like 40 different herbs, and they have like it tells you the different purpose and the the contraindications to be careful. And it's like they're all like I want them all, and I like picture like having this cool like cabinet, and you like pull out all the little jars and have these little herbs that you can use for stuff, but it's very expensive. So like if somebody just wanted to start like a basic thing, what would be like maybe your five top herbs that somebody should probably have on hand? I know
That's
that you
such
could break it down stress and stuff, but just like overall.
Yeah, I would my first thoughts go to liver herbs, herbs that help with the liver because I feel that, most people, our liver is overburdened because of having to process and clean our body from the chemicals and the endocrine disruptors that we have in our environment, which throws off our hormones.
Yeah.
And then our liver is also helping to cleanse out the residual of hormones that are floating through our bloodstream. So I would go for the roots, dandelion root. The whole dandelion plant is awesome and it's a weed. People call it a
Yeah.
weed and it's
Yeah.
everywhere and you can just harvest those and
Oh,
dry
can you?
them. Yeah, you can
Oh.
pull them from their root, dry them, and then cut the root, chop it up, and boil it into a tea, and it's delicious. If
Oh.
you roast dandelion root, it tastes like coffee.
Oh, really?
Yes, it tastes like
Oh.
coffee, but it's actually instead of what coffee does, which is it's like an exciting like, the way I visualize it in my body when we drink coffee, it, like, tells the adrenal glands like spurt out this adrenaline and then our blood vessels squeeze and so we have this it is anxiety in a cup.
Yeah.
And like the way I experience it is like go 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 but it's like from a squeezing place. And dandelion root on the other hand, it tastes like coffee but it's actually purifying our liver from all of the adrenaline that we have rushing through our body from.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's such an
Huh.
amazing healing plant, and you don't even have to buy it, and you'd be surprised how much plants you don't have to buy. The real thing is learning to identify where they're at. Like lemon balm, lemon verbena, we have a lot of it growing here in San Diego.
Oh.
So if you can identify it, you can just take a few clippings and either replant it or just I'll go out today on my run and harvest some lemon verbena and bring it straight home and make it into a tea, and that's really good for your nervous system.
Oh.
So far we have dandelion, I'm mentioning lemon verbena, and then chamomile. Chamomile, I would even actually put that to number 1 because it's not only relaxing to our nervous system, it's considered like a sedative.
Mhm.
It's also a bitter herb that's helpful for our digestion.
Oh.
So, as well as relaxing our nervous system and also, calming our digestive system. So, amazing, and it's so basic, chamomile.
Yeah. Now what is that? I guess I would have to see what that looks like in the wild. Does that just grow out in California? You could just find it, or
I
what do
have
you have to
not.
buy?
I actually planted chamomile because I
Okay.
hadn't had much success finding it. When you see it, what it looks like is the little yellow portion in the center is like, it looks like, it's a round ball, and then
Mhm.
it has little delicate flowers, but the main focus is that yellow center. It looks like a
Oh,
little sunshine and then little
huh.
white flowers around it. But
Wow.
it looks a little bit like a daisy, but
Mhm.
so I always will look, I'm like, "Oh, is that the chamomile?" And it usually I use this little identifier, a little it's called Picture This. It's an
Oh,
app.
yeah.
You
Uh-huh.
can take a picture of the plants and see what it is, and I
Oh.
always am confusing daisies for chamomile. It's never right, though. It's never chamomile.
Huh. What about lavender? Because I noticed now, like even in the coffee shops, they're incorporating lavender into like scones and coffees and teas and drinks. Is that a good
Yes.
one?
Yes, and that was coming to my mind. I was like, "What would be next? Would it be lavender? Would it be rose?" So lavender, in the ancient Egyptian texts, they use lavender as a way they make a balm for the chest
Mhm.
of living people and for when they're mummifying people, because the idea is that the lavender is soothing the spirit and making it a comfortable space for the spirit. So
Okay.
it like thinking that it dates back to ancient
Yeah.
Egypt,
It's cool.
like, dude, that is a powerful herb that it went through from ancient Egypt and we still have it now. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, and it's so popular. And then the other one that I always go for is mint.
Oh,
Mint's good for your stomach, right?
yeah, mint I use a lot in, like magical workings,
Uh-huh.
because mint is associated with abundance.
Oh,
Mint, when we say it's a mint, like, what do you call this? Coins?
yeah.
The mint press or the press mint or whatever.
Yeah.
So I actually planted some mint outside, and I think of it in that way. Like when I want to make something like a body scrub, I'll dry out a little mint and put it into my mixture for my body scrub. So,
Oh,
when I'm rubbing, I'm like thinking green abundance thoughts.
yeah.
And
That
then,
makes sense. Yeah, and mint is like crazy because I planted mint, like a one little tiny mint plant from like the hardware store, and I planted it years ago. And at one point, it just grows. I mean, it doesn't need water. It's like a mat, and it's always lush and green and abundant, like you say. So that's
yeah,
interesting. I never thought about it that way.
yeah,
And I mean, it's perfect for anything. So
it's
I'm gonna think about like using that because I'm an esthetician and
mm,
I don't practice anymore, but I have the license to. But I've always wanted to like make my own like scrubs and stuff beyond like just, the regular stuff that you can buy, something that's extra special. So that's given me some ideas. What
mhm.
about the I know you make some that you sell online, like you have the awaken a dream. So like what does that have in it that helps you? Does it help you with sleeping or dreaming?
Thank you for asking that. So I made 3 different sleep blends.
Oh,
With for 3 different things. So the one that you just showed that's my favorite, because it has a plant called Guayusa leaf in it. Guayusa leaf is from Colombia, and it's in the same family as yerba mate, but it has a different effect on our nervous system where it will keep us aware. Whenever you start falling asleep and you're like in the hypnagogic stage,
yeah.
and they call it like the hypnagogic jerk, you're starting to fall, and then like you trip in your dream and you
Yeah.
jerk a little bit. So that is our brain trying to stay awake. It's trying to stay aware. And so the herbs are a mixture of things like poppy, chamomile. It's a mixture of like sleepy herbs with the guayusa leaf, so that you're able to relax your body while keeping your mind aware. So that when you
Mhm.
get into the dream and you have one of these, what I think it's Charlie Morley who calls it a weird, and WEIRD actually is an acronym for something, but it's like a way of something weird happening in your dream, which will alert your mind to like,
Right.
"Oh, this is a dream," and then you
Yeah.
can wake up in the dream.
Right.
So that's what that blend is for. But then I have some other blends because people are suffering so much. I don't want to bring the vibe down, but like it's true
Yeah.
with our sleep. Sleep has
Yeah.
become like a lost art.
It really has.
It really has. So I have a couple of other blends. One of them, the original name for it was going to be Mama Said, because that LL Cool J song, Mama Said Knock You Out.
I like that.
But then I changed my mind and was like, I don't know if people are gonna get it or not. So, that one has hops in it and skullcap and some other things too that just to help with the taste of it, but that one will just knock you out. It's like you won't really have dreams with it because it shuts down your that part of your brain that I'm trying to keep awake for the lucid dreaming, it just turns it off.
So you can relax and
So
yeah.
you can just get knocked out. And then there's another one called Nocturnal Epiphany that has a plant that I can't pronounce the name because it's in Spanish and it's like this big of a name, but it translates to the leaf of God,
Oh,
and it does help us to stay awake slightly in our mind, and we'll have like long drawn out dreams. So those times you have a dream where there's like it seems like it went on and on.
yeah.
And that's what that one is for. But you
Okay.
still will stay in REM sleep for longer, which is what
Mhm.
you need to be in REM sleep to be able to have those longer dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because we can dream in other parts of our sleep patterns, but that's where we have the most usually the ones we remember. And
Right.
I mean, because like I'm the type of person where I can be so tired and I guess I have so much on my mind, I can like fall asleep for like 20 minutes and literally dream. And that doesn't happen to everybody. And but I have talked to a lot of people through the years, and it does seem like people who are like me, who are people who like just pass out from exhaustion, like for like a 20-minute cat nap, that is that when they'll dream, it's kind of like you're having like a little mini, like you're really stressed and you're kind of working through it right at that moment. Like your body's like, we need to just put you out and work on this stress. It's amazing what our mind can do if we allow it, and people will drink coffee and fight it off. And I mean, maybe you can't take a nap. I mean, when I worked in insurance, I every once in a while, if everybody was gone, I would put my head down on the desk, but the phone would always ring. But I would like take that quick little nap. So I mean, if you can take a nap, it's a great thing to do. But I love that because it like kind of it, I don't want to say force, but it kind of forces you to, do the things that your mind needs you to do. Sometimes you need the night off. Sometimes you kind of want to like be almost working with your subconscious in the dream, which is for me what lucid dreaming is basically you're hand in hand with your subconscious and you're aware of each other and working on it, your conscious and your subconscious. It's incredible. So I love that you have three different versions because people do need different things at different times. And now I want to get the other two and try them because that sounds really amazing. Okay, so I saw you post online that you opened a new shop. So I'd like to hear what it is and where it's located.
Okay, so I have a new place opened up. My friend is also an esthetician,
Oh,
and we worked together back in 2009 when I first moved to San Diego. We worked together when I had my wellness center just over here in OB, and I haven't had a space since 2001, but I do out calls. So people will hire me. I go to their house. I do many things, but primarily it's body work, Reiki, cranial sacral therapy, teach them yoga, do nutrition counseling, basically everything that I mean, to me, this is everything because it's everything that I think is a way to health.
right.
And so the wellness center, it's just one big space that we have together. So we are planning to do work together at times where her table and my table are in there and do like little spa parties. The
Yeah.
space is big enough that I can teach like 3 people a yoga class, so like private yoga sessions.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which would include the relaxation things like
Yeah.
the breathing practices and the like yoga nidra type shavasana that I learned in India. Um, and yeah, probably that's probably gonna be what we're doing in that space. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. I might, and it's in Ocean Beach? Or you said it was by Balboa Park in San
Yeah.
Diego.
Yeah, it's right across from so it's on 5th Avenue, right across from the 6th Avenue Park at Balboa Park.
Okay. I'm gonna have to like treat myself and do something like that because I'm the type of person where I I always want to do these things, but when I was in my 20s, I was belonged to like aerobic classes, and I was the one who during aerobics, like you would like it's basically like a routine, right? I don't know where all these people were. They learned the choreography, but I did not know it. And I would always like turn the wrong way. I'd be the one person that's out of like sync with everybody else. And so I really shy away from any kind of like group things where everybody's going to know what there's going on. And I never seem to know what's going on. So I like the idea that it's like a smaller group. Maybe you come, with family members or friends and you do something it's more safer for me, kind of. And there's a lot of people like I am, I think. So
I
that's
do
good.
too. I used to teach step aerobics actually in a group setting when I
Uh-huh.
was just out of high school. It was like my first apprenticeship job.
Oh,
And recently, what I've been talking with my partner about, because he's thinking like, oh, I want to start teaching this fitness and nutrition things, but he's thinking little groups, and I'm like, well, you know what? I think the better thing is working with people like you who are like want to learn it, but I prefer the one-on-one because it's what I usually do is 3 sessions. You come in for 3 sessions. By the time we finish the 3rd one, you have your own practice now and you never have to come back, and you can it's something that you will remember, and you feel confident that all of you're doing it right. Your movements
yeah.
are correct and you're not hurting yourself, you know?
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if like I've done like yoga, I can't think of the gal's name, but she's a really popular yoga instructor, and I've like followed her stuff. But I modify
Mhm.
because some of those things, it's like even though it says it's beginners, I don't know, but so I modify some of these because I know my body, and my body's like, nope, it's not going to immediately bend into that. That's something I would have to work up to. So,
Mhm.
but I mean, if somebody's not careful, you really could get hurt. Like I always like, say, oh, check out this yoga, but I always say, but I do modify. Like I don't want anybody to go out there and like if you don't bend that way, then don't bend that way. Like you need to go to somebody who can like you ease people into like certain poses, and because the body has to learn to kind of stretch. Like how long does it take somebody if they're learning yoga? Is it like 30 days, 6 weeks till you kind of get more flexibility?
Well, when I went to India, I had never taken a yoga class before. When I went to India, I had found a book in some regular people place, like I was at the mall or something and found this book. And I had learned the postures like 1 month at a time, and we didn't have the internet. I mean, we did, but it wasn't like you could just Google
Right.
Shirshasana headstand. How do you do it? And what are the common mistakes? It wasn't like that back then. So when I got to India, I was totally a beginner. I had just learned from a book. But we were practicing 2 hours a day, every single day,
Wow.
and 2 hours a day every day, and I was there for 2 years. So, over the course of the time, there were a few postures that I could not do, and I found some of them that I could get into them over the course of a month. Some of them, it took me the whole year. Some of them I never was able to get into.
Okay.
So what you're mentioning is very important, and it's so good to have somebody who has experience with many different bodies and can help you find keeping yourself in alignment and find where you are, and then how to get to the next step wherever that would be, whatever that next step would be, because there's always somewhere to go with every single yoga posture. It's never like you never have come into the posture, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's always, you can always advance it. Yeah.
Yes.
So, what is yoga's main like purpose? Is it for strength or is it for balance?
What a that's such an amazing question. So in India, this question came up a lot, and the I've heard it said like this. One of my teachers said that the whole point of yoga was so that you can become like a child again.
Oh,
So that, like we're like this, we're like going forward, so our arms are like rolled in and we're like
yeah.
this. and our hips are going forward because we sit in a chair and we are in this direction. But little kids are like all over the place, crawling on the floor, climbing up trees, and they're
Yeah.
more like in the lateral plane, not just in one plane of motion. And
Yeah.
so I loved that. So to become like a child again. And then another way I've heard it said is that so we can sit in a meditative posture so that we can advance our meditation practice, so we can connect back with source. So it's like bringing our individual ego identity self, the I maker, like I am Anjani, and then I can connect that with my God self, with the source self. And so being able to sit in for meditation. So
Yeah.
that's the point, to yoke, to unite yourself with your source self. So all these movements actually don't really matter. It's just a way of getting the body back, because they say that when we have stuck places in our body, that we are rigid and we're holding on to patterns from the past. And so to
Hmm.
break free from those patterns, our body would have to like reorganize itself into a new way of being. So
Huh.
yeah, so the postures themselves, it's not, does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. And I mean, just the little time that I had done it between, like I said, doing dream work and then going into the yoga and trying, because I was like, oh, I can't do that. And then one day I'm like, I'm just gonna try. Nobody knows. So, I could see how it wasn't like as hard as I thought, but what it did do is it gave me it made me present. It made me focus on just myself and not worrying about what I was going to do after. Like it took me away from that, which is a beautiful thing because I notice the more I get into this, we're always thinking about what's next, what's next. And we don't even do things a lot of times out of fun. It's just checking the boxes. And I recently noticed that I do fun things, but not for fun. I do them because they're supposed to be fun. You know what I mean? And it's
I
like,
get it.
that is really bad. I'm like, no wonder I feel so bad. It's like, I don't know how I got to that point. And I'm like kind of digging my way out of it. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm exploring all these different, you
Okay.
know, ways of kind of working through that. Cause my dreams brought me to the awareness, but
Wow.
that's where it leaves me, right? Dreams tell you what you need to know, but now there's another step you need to take to work on what it taught you. So
Okay, I love that. Yeah, I love that. The dream work that I practice is exactly that. It's like I'll see the images in the dream and then I'm like, go look it up. Like I had a series of dreams when I was writing my book with like Nikola Tesla teaching me about energy fields, Albert
ooh,
Einstein teaching me about many things. Albert Einstein was so then, but I didn't know. I was like, oh, we have drugs in our body that are activated when we're having drama with our boyfriend. And then I would like have to go look that up and find out that, oh, actually we do have that. I didn't know that, but my
yeah,
dreams brought me to that. But I
yeah,
love that I didn't ever put that together, but it's like the dream doesn't teach you the whole thing. They bring you to the awareness of it. And then it's
yeah.
your job to go look. Cause a lot of times people just have a dream and be like, I had the weirdest dream. And then they don't take the actions. And it's like,
They don't get the bigger that it was a great story, but there was a whole message in the story. Yeah, exactly. And even if it's a nightmare versus just a really weird dream, it
yeah.
it always means something.
How
And
do you help people get through that? How do you help, like, walk people through, or what do you do with the dreams with people?
well, it's best if you can sit down with the person or even like through, messaging is that I always break it down into like the three main things. So, first, what's the story? And so then you want to know what is the three main things in the dream. It's usually like where they're at, what's going on, and like the emotion that they're feeling. Because the emotion you're feeling will tell you how you feel about whatever the topic is. So, like, say you dream about, elephants. Well, elephants going to mean different things to different people. So you have to ask yourself, what does an elephant mean to you? What does it describe it? And then a lot of times, also, if you write down your dreams, as you're writing it down, you're actually putting the information of what the dream means in how you're writing it down. And people don't like, I've had people send me a message, here's my dream. And I'll come back and I'll point out a couple of things they said. And then they're just like, oh my God, like they literally wrote it, but they didn't see it. Even though they wrote it down, the message was literally right there. And then they just have to decide what was that main character, what did that mean? And then how does that mirror something going on in your life now? Or it could even be from the past, something that is coming up now because something triggered you. And
Mm.
so, you might think, well, it's actually about this boss, but it could have been about some other bad relationship in the past. And it's triggering you, but you don't know that because it's not, dreams are so, like abstract that I mean, it's fun because it makes them more magical and more memorable because they're fun. But sometimes it's like, I love it when a dream will point blank, someone will walk up to you. Like I've had my cat say something to me the other day and in a dream. And so like, you remember the cat was talking to me. I got to write this down, cause it's like amazing. So, I mean, it's not as hard as people think, but the key is you've got to write it down and read it. You write it down, you read what it says, and then you add to it because the more you're like thinking of it, you visualize, what that setting looked like and anything, like was it a Western town, whatever it was, you'll start to remember other little things. And if you can meditate and close your eyes and really walk back through the dream, you'll start to remember a lot of stuff. And so I love to have people visualize and come back, and you could spend like an hour and you'll just remember thing after thing after thing after thing.
Is there
So
any way that a method that you have found to be more useful in helping people or helping yourself to remember your dreams? I've heard some things about like different foods and herbs you can take, and obviously different plants, but to get from being in the dream into successfully writing it in your dream journal, like what is this?
the trick I have found is that you have to say it out loud. Because the minute you start speaking it out loud, you're putting it in your permanent memory. You also have to think of it as someplace you actually were. So, like, you're waking up and you're like, I was just talking to the cat, and there was this red bicycle, and there was this guy with a mustache. And, like, once you start saying it out loud, and I always tell people, warn your spouse or your children that you might start saying weird stuff in the middle of the night. The other thing is that a lot of us will wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and say, I definitely will remember this dream, and you
Mhm.
probably won't because we have like 4 or 5 dreams every night, and you more than likely will only remember the last dream you had. So there was a bunch of dreams before that if you didn't wake up and write them down, you won't. You have to train yourself that the second you are aware, you have to just get up, and you won't get good rest doing that. So maybe pick a time when you're on vacation or you can sleep during the day or something, because you will train yourself to wake up through every dream. I've done that to myself, and you have to retrain yourself to sleep through the night, because it's like, if you could do it for like 30 days if you can, and you write it down, but then you have to retrain yourself not to wake up for every dream, because it will really chop up your sleep. You'll be waking up like every hour because that's what happened to me. But it does work. I mean, if that's your intention, is to remember, I believe anyone can train themselves to remember dreams. It's just people automatically say, I don't remember my dreams. But if you ask them, tell me about a nightmare you've had, they'll remember. And so, yes, you do remember your dreams. You just,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting what you said about waking up for every single one of them, because I have never. I have had sometimes I'll remember like 3 dreams from a night, but I don't think I wake up in between them. But like the last one, when I'm waking up, that one I have been able to remember for years and years. I have a bunch of these journals full of dreams that
yeah.
I'm always like, when my kids die, they're gonna know every dream I had
Yeah.
since I was in the Navy, when I started writing my dreams down. But it is something that I'm always wondering how to help people to get used to it. Like get used to, like I've done a trick where I would write a letter to actually created this whole like dream temple, and
Uh-huh.
I called it the dream temple, and I was like dream teachers. So I have guides and teachers in my dream temple, and I would write a letter and before I go to bed that was saying what I need, and ask in a declaration type of way, like
Yeah.
tonight I'm going to my dream temple, I'm going to meet my teachers and guides, and I'm going to work on this issue, or I'm going
Yeah.
to get some insight on such and such, and then I would just put it under my pillow and go to sleep thinking about it, and
Yeah.
then it often works, and
Yes.
sometimes a dream doesn't seem to make any rational sense, but like you said, as you start writing it and saying it, you can, oh, it starts to fill in the gaps even of things that you
It
didn't
does.
remember
Yeah.
necessarily.
And that totally works, setting the intention. I did a dream experiment. I had like 12 people, and I had had a dream about a white inn. It was like a 1900s hotel. And so I took the dream in one of the rooms and I described the room to them. And I had everybody write down this information. And as they were falling asleep, I had them visualize that room. And there was a couple of people, one person saw out, they looked out the window and they got that it was a dirt road, like I knew it was a dirt road. There was a couple of people that like they tapped into a little bit, but what it did was it launched them into their own dream world. And it's almost like we all are going to meet at the end, and then we're each going to go off and have our own journey. And they would bring their dreams back to me. And so many of them were, and we did it for a week. So you were committed to working on it every day for a week. And people literally, like one girl, she was 16, and she got these beautiful messages about self-love. And I almost cried because she's young, and it was like, it was amazing the information she got. Two people seemed to connect with information they got from each other, so it was like a crossover. It's a fascinating, like I love to dig deep into the collective consciousness, and how we can kind of tap in and share information and stuff. I mean, the fact that people don't write down their dreams, it just makes me sad, because it's like, I mean, you don't have to do it every night, but try for a week, you'd be amazed the information you get,
That's
Even
really cool, the group dream work.
yeah.
So do you offer that?
I was thinking about doing another one. I've done a few. I did one with a haunted doll. And then, haunted or not, I did it with a doll, and everybody had to visualize the doll. And the couple of people, it was two men out of, I had two men in the experiment. The rest were women. I think there was 8 or 10 people, and the two men were able to say what the doll was next to. The one described what he thought was a basement was actually my garage. It was really almost like spooky, you know. So I mean, there's something to the whole thing, but yeah, I'm thinking about coming up with another experiment. I've been working on it a little bit, but I can definitely let you know when I do.
Oh, yeah, I love that stuff. I had a teacher who I was studying the shamanic arts with. Her name is Katie Weatherup. She's local here in San Diego. And something that she did in a group setting was having us all like lay next to each other and go like guide with her drum, like guiding us into a whatever the beta state or whatever the relaxation state is, and then guided us through a shamanic journey.
Ooh,
And there was like a basket. She had a basket and it was covered and there was something in there. And we were to go into the shamanic dream
yeah.
time and go see what was in the basket and then come back and say what we saw.
Wow, I love that.
Was, like you said, kinda spooky because
Yeah,
how did we know? How did
yeah,
people see what was in the basket?
yeah.
So there really is something to going into dream time, and that we and my son, he's only 12, and I think he was 10 when I got him interested in lucid dreaming, and then he also got into the out of body experience. I don't know if you've heard of, his name is Darius, I can't remember his last name right now, but he made a hit in the scene on podcasts, like, maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, teaching about out of body experiences.
Huh.
And he has a really cool thing called the method, where he guides people step by step how to get into that out of body experience. And my son, the little boy, was like committed and devoted to doing it. And he would even have his friends for a sleepover and be like showing them how to do it. And then they
Well,
were just, like
yeah.
communing with different beings from other realms and then waking up and telling each other about it.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Super
I love
cool.
that. I'll have to check that I'll have to find that and watch it and see what he's doing. There's a lot of people out there that I don't know if it's just because I've gotten into the idea of it, but there's a lot of people out there that are trying to share this kind of information, and I always say to my husband, it's like half of the world is either like very scientific or trying to like, raise their vibrations. And then there's the other half that are so the opposite. They're stuck like in some kind of a past situation, with all the things that go on in the world, and I see them now. When I look at it, I don't like look at them and think, oh, they're terrible people. I just think they're stuck. They don't know, and it's really interesting. And I feel like the more people share this kind of stuff, the more mainstream it becomes. I think a lot of people will be helped, which benefits everybody. Because when the collective, I believe when the collective is down, it drags everybody down. And if you get enough people to raise it up, then it benefits everyone,
Mm.
So
I really needed to hear that today because back to what I was telling you about the 0 to 20, I got to a point where I was just so like, I'm gonna make the face. Like sad. I think this is
yeah,
like, sad, discouraged, like just looking at things and being like, you really believe what you see on TV? You're
right.
still listening to that negative lyrics and these songs and the frequencies that are causing discord in your cells. And I felt discouraged, like I can't really help you. And then
Yeah,
but hearing you say that, you're absolutely right. Like it's like when everybody or more people are awake in the dream, we all have a higher, like a better chance at
yeah,
creating whatever it is that we need to create to move forward as humans.
yeah. Yeah, we don't wanna mess this up.
Right?
Because, I mean, the opportunity, I mean, that planet is so beautiful. It's just like, I love just going out in my yard, and there's some work that needs to be done, but, I still have this tree that planted itself. I don't know where it came from. It started growing. I told my husband, "Don't cut that. Let's see what it does." It's the most beautiful shade tree. It almost looks like a mushroom. I have no idea. I'll take a picture of it. I have no idea what kind of tree it is. But I love sitting under that tree, and I swear everything goes silent. You just feel the breeze and the
Mm.
grass. You know that there's this whole like world that lives under your feet. All the bugs and the worms and just everything. And it's amazing that we're even here. And so many people miss that.
Mm.
And I just feel like it's good. I mean, I love that the work that you're doing and sharing this stuff. And I was going to talk a little bit about planetary alignments and the
Oh.
moon cycles and astrology. But I'll just ask you the one question. I was watching a video and I wrote it down. You said you were talking about compatibility and rising signs. And
Mhm.
so I got that you basically making sure you're compatible with somebody. So, I mean, for somebody who doesn't know anything about that, how do you like know, like, even like if you're sure dating and stuff is maybe you can look into it a little bit more, but like even like applying for jobs and stuff, is there a way to like use that to know that it's right for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that looking at jobs, actually our chart has it written. It was written in the stars, like what we are most suited
Huh.
for in work, our
Hmm.
career, what type of like what makes us feel loved, what makes us feel most at home and comfortable, that would be the moon. What makes us feel most loved, that would be like Venus. Do we desire, that would be Mars. So you can look at the chart and find literally everything that's
Wow.
about life in the chart. And oh gosh, so but about the rising signs, whenever it's kind of like a mind-blowing thing, even astrologers forget. So when I say this, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. So whenever you look at anything that's like your sun, what's your sun sign? Is it Aquarius or Gemini or something like that?
I'm a Gemini.
Gemini. um so when you see that and you're like, so you're looking at the astrology and you probably most likely you'll look at the one that says Gemini, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not supposed to. Actually,
Oh.
you're supposed to read the one that's your rising sign.
Oh.
So you're right. Whenever astrologers write the astrology, we're writing for your rising sign.
Oh. So how do you know
So
what that is?
it's easy just to go on any of these apps. I use astro.com. A lot of people are using AstroSeek, which is a really cool, actually AstroSeek has a lot more advanced features on it, but astro.com is more basic. And
Mhm.
so I've been using that since 2000, forever ago. Um And you just type in your birth time, city you were born in, the date you were born, and then it'll show you. It'll show you everything, but you're looking for the rising sign. And
Okay.
so, say if you have Pisces rising. Pisces rising is most associated with learning about dreams. So that's why I'm not guessing random. It's not like a cold guess. I'm like, oh, maybe you have Pisces rising. And then that would be something that you're here working toward every day of your life. You're in the mysteries of Pisces. And so you would read for the Pisces when you're looking at the astrology. And then that would be called the first house. Whatever sign you have your rising sign, that's where the houses start. So it would be the house
Oh,
one. Right across from that would be the seventh house. And this is known as the relationship axis. So if you were a Pisces rising, right opposite to that would be Virgo.
hmm.
And that would tell us that, oh, she probably likes people that have to do something with sacred work, that they are committed and devoted to the earth. So, because Virgo in the seventh house is saying that your love partnership has something to do with being devoted to the sacred patterns of nature. And so, from just hearing what you're, I'm like, oh, I could see that. I could see
Yeah.
that, and that you and your husband, like your love for each other, is feeding love in general, that it's in service to spirit through just your love expands and spreads into the so somewhat what I'm talking about with the compatibility. So if you had a Pisces rising, it would be you would be looking more into, you probably wouldn't be super compatible with a Leo rising, for instance, because it's something very different. Pisces is very watery and mystical and nonchalant and like whimsical. And a Leo rising is going to be all the life of the party, needs to be seen and front and center and loud. And it's very different than Pisces rising. So
Yeah.
that relationship might be, there's things to,
Yeah.
not saying that it wouldn't work, but that it would be a little bit more challenging, you know?
Sure. Yeah. Before we go, what is it that you would like anybody to know and then where they can find you?
What I would like everybody to know actually is that we are, yes, we are bodies and we have this embodied experience. We're bound by time, by our physical bodies. We have this like, the Saturn principle that we are contracted into living here on Earth and being, there's that squishiness of like our
Yeah.
bones being dense,
Yeah.
and we are also completely free. And it's like in an instant, we can bring our consciousness to ancient Egypt and receive messages and love and information from there, from anywhere. So connecting in with the dream time, like we can literally have a dream, realize something, and let the ethereal energy come in and transform our bones and our structure and our health. And I will add one more thing. Aside that is amazing to me, that we're time bound, but we're not, in a way, because we do
Yeah.
have that freedom of our spirit and our soul. And that what we eat really, really matters. What we eat is like we're taking information in the form of its codes. It's coded information. And that, like, there's something called a book called Decolonize Your Diet, which is all about eating what your ancestors ate. So wherever you're from, there's a code from that land that
Huh.
is a match to your body. And if you can
Okay.
line up closer with the codes of where you're from, you will heal your body in such an amazing way. And because you're
Wow.
connecting with your ancestors when you're eating what they ate, listening to the music that they listened to, and
Mhm.
being in harmonious alignment with them. That's, I think, one of the biggest, most amazing things is like we are bound by time, but we're also free in all times and spaces. And we can merge those two things together, like merging the sky, which is huge and infinite and forever, and then the earth, which is bound in a way by, the rings and the trees and where the rocks are and how the land masses have shifted. it's a little bit more bound, but
Yeah.
we can merge those 2 things together. So that's the thing I would wanna tell everybody is, like, find where those 2 things line up, and yeah, don't be so stuck, you know?
Yeah. I never heard anybody say that before. That's really interesting that connecting with your ancestors is healing. I mean, that makes sense. I've explored ancestral healing and came to some awareness of why things are the way they are. For my family, my son's family, like I've understood things, but I never even thought about like part of the healing is embracing your ancestors like that. That's
Mhm.
really beautiful. I love that. And then where can people find you?
I would recommend going to my Instagram just because it's the easiest, Venus
Okay.
Gemstone and, Venus Gemstone, and then there's my little link tree down there, which has there's a link to my school. I have Awaken the Dream School, which you can, there's a bunch of free stuff on there. I love to
Uh-huh.
give away free resources. My YouTube channel is it's also called Awaken the Dream School. There's tons, I mean, it's YouTube. So there's, and I organize it in such a way that you want to go into dreams, I have a little section for dreams. You want to
Okay.
go into astrology things, relationship things, yeah, I would say Venus Gemstone and then just open up the link tree. I have a free class called The Discipline of Self-Love, which is, it teaches about how our mitochondria and our hormonal system basically is in sync with the earth, and it gives it, like, it's a week long, it's every day you learn one thing,
Yeah.
and so you start to build your routine based off following the patterns of nature. It's super simple. It's not, I think it's altogether 3 hours, but it's a free class. I highly recommend. I like really want everybody to get on that. It's free. And it's like,
Yeah.
so, it's how you can find out what to eat and what time to go to bed and when to wake up and.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm definitely gonna check that out. I didn't I'm in for sure on that one. I'm gonna check that out. That's awesome. I gotta thank you so much for sharing this. I feel like I have to have you come back because I can see that there's so many different ways that we could like launch into topics and everything. I could tell you love ancient Egypt and so do I. And I always feel like a kinship with people because I know there's some connection there because some people you'll meet and they're not. But I always meet people that are, and it's always people that I click with. So I know that there's just something to that. So
Oh, wow, I didn't know you like that. I feel sad for my boyfriend because every time we're talking, I'll be like, "Well, in ancient Egypt, blah, blah, blah." And he's like,
what?
"Okay." Well, thank you so much. This was so much fun.